What in the world is going on with Dak Prescott's physique? He's out of control. Gavin Dawson here from 105.3 The Fans, G-Bag Nation. My sources tell me this weekend this is 100% legit. Cowboys Nation, is this something that makes you believe he's ready to have a great season, a comeback season in 2025? Let's do this.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys? Yeah!
From 105.3 The Fan, and welcome in Newbear, the former all-academic SEC lineman at Kentucky. Buddy, it's good to see you again. In a sport where doughy bodies have been good enough, and many of the greats have been mid-teens body fat percentage, Dak Prescott getting absolutely shredded. Let me go ahead and share this to the screen again.
Look at this guy.
Dude, why is he doing this, and what can we expect from Dak Prescott coming off such a significant injury again? How Bout Wow, brought to you by our friends at Harbor Lighting. Go to harborenterprisesllc.com, the best DFW company for Christmas lights and permanent lighting solutions. 817-304-7041, and ask him to bring the wow to your house like Dak Prescott's bringing to a football field. Pause. Newbear, what do you think?
And I saw this just trending everywhere. He looks like a bodybuilder. He looks incredible.
Yeah. He looks like, one of these guys that's doing that pre-bodybuild show shred where they're like drinking no water and eating no carbs to try to get the body as lean as possible. So why does a quarterback like Dak Prescott, who's had all this success, need to go to these extremes, Newbear?
He's really just trying to fight Father Time. I mean, the saying is always Father Time's undefeated. And it's that Tom Brady effect, pliability, all the different elements of, you look at baseball pitchers and different folks who are, the equivalent of a quarterback in their sport, and hockey players who have instituted these, Pilates and yoga. It's all these buzz things in the past decade and change. And that's really what it's about, is change. When you go back, and I was even watching some of the All or Nothing stuff the other day, which is 2017, right? I mean, you talk about him in his first and his second year. He was probably 230 plus for sure at Mississippi State, but he was listed early with the Cowboys at 238, which is when you're talking about like a contest, like a bodybuilder shredding. He's been listed 226. He ran at the combine at 226. So that 12 pounds there, we talk about 12, 15, 18 pounds here and there. You get in shape to run. You get in shape to look good for the cameras when you're going to go on stage and flex, right? But I want to know if he's like 212. Like, I want to know how far he's taken this, because, 20, 25 pounds, when you talk about taking strain off of joints, because that's fundamentally what this is about. Hip bone connected to leg bone. When you rip bone off with the hammy and nobody even touched you, this wasn't a sniper this wasn't a turf monster. This was just your body going boom. You got to make some changes.
In a sport where like flexible and supple is important, you mentioned Tom Brady there, who took that to an extreme.
Sure.
Maybe Dak's into the yoga and stuff. I know he's done that in the past, where maybe this shred is absolutely still sinewy. But you mentioned, like, here's a photo of him. This is from 2016 rookie year. And that looks like around 230 pounds. And then there was a super beefy Dak that showed up somewhere before the injury that had to be somewhere approaching 250 pounds, Newbear.
Yeah.
And that was Dak.
His body type and his height makes you think about Donovan McNabb, whose weight was something that was ridiculed all over the place from Syracuse through his run with the Eagles, and then ultimately, where things really ended in Washington. And that was something where it came, if we're talking about things, getting ugly for him in the Super Bowl, where, T.O. threw him under the bus, saying that the reason they couldn't run 2 minutes was because he was puking in the huddle. And when you talk about some of this stuff adding up in those pressure moments, if your body is snapping apart from itself in the pocket when you are protected, and you're 32 and you want to play and you want to chase that ring and you want to cement that legacy. What did he say? For my sanity, be damned if it's for my sanity, right? I need this. And for this team that you are a leader of and have been a leader of, and you're going to go lead these men in this summer with the Schoppenheimer vibes, right?
Yeah.
Like, this was the time to make a change for all the right reasons, where you're coming in saying, hey, Tyler Guyton's in shape. I'm fit. Let's go.
Shoddy told us last training camp, we talked to him when he was still consulting, or exactly what his role was for the 3 years before he started coaching. But, we asked him, what do quarterbacks need to do if opposing defenses are taking away big plays and yards per attempt on the ground? He says the quarterbacks need to run. So yeah, I think the why on this, Newbear, I think you're all over it, but it's because he absolutely has to have his body ready to run. And as we've watched him post leg, he has been hesitant to run. Sometimes it's been a little bit off balance. So I think he's trying to get his weight low so that power to weight ratio is as advantageous as possible. But I feel like if he had never gotten hurt, his body would look more like a Roethlisberger now, where he's on the other side of 30, using that as like armor and running like a fullback, just tanking dudes. You know, but leg injury, what's that?
Ben Roethlisberger, 6'5". Ben Roethlisberger was a big boy. Yeah. And I fully believe that there were seasons that he was, because one of the things, he was always so banged up that it was hard for him to, he was having surgery and he was just going through the process of getting ready to be able to play, right? In the off, talk about Shaq, right? Shaq always used to say, I got hurt on company time. I'm going to get in shape on company time, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
He would play he would be fat at the beginning. Diesel might have been 400 pounds. And then come June, he's finals MVP somewhere closer to 3. I do think Ben Roethlisberger was 300 pounds absolutely one year.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Dak's 6'2", right? And we've talked about how, he's kind of like a bubble butt QB. He's got some of those O lineman traits. Right? He's a sturdy guy. Mm-hmm. What was really, really cool to see is, these guys do this stuff and they know the cameras are there. Hell, some of them probably paid for the paparazzi, do it for the gram. But this dude is doing it for his legacy. This dude he's looking at a Tom Brady, even an Aaron Rodgers. Like, we can make fun of him for all the stuff that he's doing off the field, but he's doing that to go get his mind right, and then his body falls into place. And then he's going to show up here in Pittsburgh, and all anybody's talking about is how jacked Aaron Rodgers is with his freaky calves. And as a man who has great calves, we can appreciate that on Mr. Rogers in his.
I have no calves, man. I do not. I don't have a butt or calves, so I'm just looking admirably.
Well, but that's the thing. That's why that's why God smiled when you were born and said, this man is going to be able to speak good.
You're right.
But all
you better be able to talk about sports. He ain't going to play any.
We were coming into this thing you were talking about doughy bodies, and then you threw out like Joe Montana. And I was like, yeah, he was literally chicken wing. Like, he might have weighed 175 pounds. But I'm saying, like, muscle definition to me can equal more likely to get hurt. Like Wyatt Langford, the great Ranger slugger. This dude's cranking out weights constantly. 2 years in a row, oblique strain. Sure. So I think, like, they look at it like, I need to be able to rotate and maybe absorb some blows more than I need to be quick twitch back here. Yeah. Well, that's why the Mahomes conversation is so fascinating, because he's Mr. Dad Bod, and he's pretty famous for it. And quarterbacks in general over time, I mean, even going back, 25 years ago when I'm in college and way before that, when they wouldn't let these guys really lift weights because they were so worried about straining their throwing arms, right? But when you watch Mahomes get hit in the pocket and you see his body bend in certain ways, he's not somebody that you would look at and be like, wow, that's a really fit dude. That's a dude I'm worried about at the pool or at the beach, right? But what they do with the pliability stuff in particular, so that when they get hit and their bodies get crunched and they get put in the matrix surrounded by thousands of pounds of other men colliding and blowing up their own body parts to try to murder them. That's what's so interesting about this, because the Dak thing, he's got the herky-jerky throwing motion, which is something else that they've been talking about rebuilding. He's got from the cadence to the herky-jerk to now, what do you look like when you take the shirt off, son? Let's go.
Yeah, he definitely looks like a running back or something right now. It's pretty damn impressive. Okay, so all right, next branch in this Dak topic tree, buddy, is we have to talk about how well we expect Prescott to play post-injury. So let's go ahead and get the share screen back on. This is week 1 versus Tampa, New Bear, following the compound fracture, devastating leg injury we weren't sure if he would come back from. And, what stands out in my memory about this game is Prescott played incredibly well, just like 6 months removed from having to redo that surgery.
Yeah, the parallels here are fascinating too, right? Because this is the Bucs coming off the Super Bowl, just like they'll have the Eagles week 1. And what's really cool about this is this is a tough, I think it's like 31-29 is the final here, the 2-point loss. But Dak comes out, to your point, off of that that was one of the most gruesome ones that you've ever seen. That was like Robin Ventura catching his cleat on home plate. The fascinating thing about this is Brady, I think, was like 32 of 50, 375 and 4. He did throw 2 picks. Dak actually outplayed him. Dak was like 32 of 58 for 403 and 3. I mean, he was right there all night with the greatest of all time. And I'm just getting hung up watching. See, this is what's cool. Like we've been talking about CD getting loose. Like you didn't see that last year. You didn't see just dig. Let's go.
Oh, didn't have any room to operate.
I could watch this all day. This game.
This was Dez still. No, this was CD Lamb. My bad. This is 2021.
It's Amari, right?
Yeah, it's Amari Cooper. It's CD Lamb. Really good offense there in 2021. And that's without Zeke being a dominant running back anymore. At that point in his career, he was already over the hill. And this is Dak just absolutely dealing against a Tampa defense that had, just won the Super Bowl and held up its end of the bargain, being a top 5 defense there for Tom Brady. But I think a media outlet did it recently. There's been a lot of conversation here in DFW just about how intensely Dak Prescott physically recovers from this, the rehab process with the trainer Britt Brown, who's one of the hardest working trainers. Apparently Dak matches his energy. So I think, like, when you think of normal players coming back from injuries, you set a timeline, you set an expectation, like, oh, you're coming back from this, it's going to be harder in the first year. I think Dak grinds through that with such an intense determination to be his best that maybe we can expect him to snap right back into prime Dak Prescott mode.
So we're talking about Dalton Schultz, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. This is what, 27? People forget how young Amari Cooper still is. Oh, Amari Cooper's like in his 27, 28-year season. This is young CD. This is like 22-year-old CD, right? So now fast forward, you're talking about him and GP. We think they're going to be better than Amari and young CD. We think Ferguson might be better than Dalton Schultz just a little bit if he's healthy. We think, Zeke here on the downturn. We think Jaden Blue might pop. There's some really, really, really fun things to be excited about with this team. And, oh, by the way, the 3 guys in the middle, if they get anything from the bookend tackles, look out.
Yeah. Oh, man, if Guyton's better, if BB's better, obviously Booker's got to be good. But, yeah, there's a lot of ways like this offense can be just as unstoppable as what we just watched there from that Cowboys 2021 game against Tampa. Dak that year, 4,449 yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 picks, 68.8% completion coming back from a compound fracture, 12-5 NFC East title, fall to San Francisco in the wild card. But to me, what we just watched there shows, Dak's greatness in the passing game. And that San Francisco game, both the San Francisco games and the Green Bay game, were both due much more to a lack of ability to run the football and stop the run. Dak Prescott was actually the Cowboys' most effective runner in 3 of his 5 Cowboys playoff losses.
It's fascinating stuff. Not just what they're not doing, but also what they're giving up on the other side of the ball with the run deep, some of those numbers being gaudy for the other team, and really just not giving yourself a chance. Like, if you can't run and you can't stop the run, good luck. You're one and done. But the simple question that you're asking is, like, what do we expect from him, right? And when we talk about looking at him year over year, and when we have, full 16 and 17 game looks at him, you're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 attempts. You're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of, 66 to 70% completion. And you're talking about a 3.5, even 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio without George Pickens opposite CeeDee Lamb, without all of those guys being healthy for a whole year, without a quality offensive line from left to right with those weapons, right? They've always had 2 of the 3, but never all 3 at the same time for 16, now 17 games, 18 weeks. And the injury luck thing is something that, we can talk about till we run out of microphones and airtime and streaming. But, like, all kidding aside, beyond any luck from the injury gods, what I keep thinking about, what I keep coming back to, watching that Tampa Bay film, thinking about the mirror of them going to Tampa in 2021 with him coming off the ankle, just like he'll be going to Philly coming off the hamstring, is decisiveness. When he is stepping in a throw rhythm, getting it out on time. Look, part of getting hit in the face is patting the ball. Part of getting hit in the face is not hitting the flat route when it's there, because you're being a greedy mofo. Like, playing in rhythm, playing on time, playing with pace, being decisive. And a lot of the stuff that we talked about previously, where he was the 8 picks in the short window last year, was him throwing the ball late, throwing the ball into coverage, taking risks. And, oh, by the way, he's getting hit in the face. Part of him getting hit in the face is on him.
No, I think that's a great point. Like, what needs to happen for the Cowboys to be good? This offense has to have a play design or a scheme that gets that ball out quicker. Because Dak's telling you with his body right now, isn't he? I want to be as lean as possible to slide out of the pocket, to move, and to be nimble, because he's holding on to the ball and finding himself in these situations that create interceptions and create injuries. They create injuries is what they do. So if I'm the coaching staff of the front office right now, how can we optimize this game plan to get the best out of the good throws that Dak Prescott does make and get that ball out quick? I mean, Tom Brady made a living off that.
One of the other things that I think everyone is overestimated a little bit is Dak's running ability, because even when the threat is real, and he never was Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, but Dak never ran the ball more than 75 times in a full year. Dak's a 3 or 4 carry per game guy, but it's when are those 3 or 4 carries? Like if you're old John Elway, you can go helicopter mode in the Super Bowl because you got to get that first down to get the ring. When we're talking about weeks 1 through 18 on the road to get to the playoffs, on the road to fight to get that ring, it's about being the same kind of decisive that you are, not fitting the ball in the tight windows, taking what the defense gives you, but then at the same time, like this half roll stuff or this awkward boot and waggle stuff, like miss me with that. Not until we know he's 1,000,000% healthy, and then also not unless it's like a full play design where you're doing it and you're pulling a guard and you're letting him set up shop. He's got no danger so that he can cock and fire a 70-yard bomb. Like you're doing it on purpose, with purpose, for a purpose.
Yeah.
Not because it's part of the scheme, sprint right option, West Coast bullshit.
No, I think you were speaking the truth there. And those boots worked so well early in his career because the defense was worried about him running. Now they're like, oh, he's not going to start running. He's worried about getting hurt. Or if he does start running, he can't beat us for 20 yards anymore. Maybe he's going to take 6 or 8. So they're dropping. And that's why on those plays that he used to roll out and get them to run up on him, then he'd go over the top or just, take the yards. It's not there. And I don't think it'll ever be there again. Like you say, 1,000% healthy. I don't think Dak Prescott's ever going to be healthy enough to want to run like he did earlier in his career. And I don't think he should, because as you mentioned, he only needs, what would you call it, 275 yards for the year? That's all you have to get. Maybe not even that. But when they bail out like that, you got to be willing to take it. Okay. Up next on How About Wow?
The nay.
If the Cowboys are going to win, who are some other players that need a massive transformation, like Dak is experiencing right now, putting in all of the incredible work? I think you go to Trayvon Diggs, who we can't be sure of because his physical therapy coming back from the ACL left a lot to be desired. That's why he had microfracture. Overshown, from what I've heard, he's ahead of schedule. This guy's got to get back, I think, by week 8, week 9. And be the answer at linebacker. I think you could also look at Terrence Steele, like how much has he totally recovered last year? Can he take it to another level? Because for his career, he's been a really good run blocker, but last year it kind of slid back. So will his explosiveness, will he get his body ready to get out there and pull off some of these run plays that the new coaches are hoping to install?
Yeah, this isn't necessarily like a super reboot or a guy who's got to come all the way back and is like a comeback player of the year type thing, or even coming off of a major IR type injury. But for me, it's Jake Ferguson, because even when Jake Ferguson was a 2023 Pro Bowler, he was basically late stage Jason Witten when you looked at the counting stats. If Ferguson's a 10.7 yard per catch guy and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are healthy, this offense is broken. He needs to be stretching the field in the middle of the field. He needs to be breaking. Why stick but stick not? There needs to be some ways where Jake Ferguson is making people pay for doubling on the outside. And then to your point about Guyton, if this talk about Richards is real and he's coming, it's not just going to be enough that Guyton lost a few LBs and had the Jared from Subway summer. He's got to have that dog that Booker better wear off on him. I was trying to combine words there. Forgive me. But like the whole Booker through BB into the other Tyler better wear off on Guyton, and he better come correct and be ready to get in some lunch, pack a lunch, and be ready to punch some dudes in the mouth, because it seems like Richard's coming for his job.
I wasn't quite sure what you meant with that Jared from Subway summer there for a second. Made me a little nervous, Newber. I imagine that could go bad in a lot of ways. Makes me remember Raphael Septien from way back in the day with the Cowboys, but that is a story for another day.
I always forget that there's the other side of that story. I just remember the weight loss. I forget all the other stuff.
Hey, let me say this. The entire defense. Matt Eberflus talked about it. Was it last week? He was on the Doomsday podcast, or maybe 2 weeks ago, he was on with the Doomsday. How many times did he mention we got to get in shape? So draw inspiration from this shredded Dak Prescott. Was it Jimmy Johnson that said fatigue makes cowards of us all? Like it's not coming back from an injury for the defense. It's getting in good enough shape that you can consistently stop the run and chase ball carriers, because at times last year it was embarrassing. And I'm encouraged that he thinks maybe this is just endurance.
I love that too, because he said our separation is going to come from our preparation, and he issued that edict. Right, we got 40 days, get your butts in shape. And there's some red ink with Overshown and Diggs. Like when you look at the projected starters, and then there's guys who are also, the rookie Ravel, he should be red too, right? Because he's coming off the ACL.
Oh, yeah. We should have mentioned that. Yeah, because he can be huge if he can get back and be good. Ravel changes everything.
Well, and what's even scarier is whatever color on the whatever depth chart you're looking at and how they score things. If Micah Parsons grayed out and he's not even there, we're having a whole different conversation. So, yeah, I mean, you talk about getting in shape. One of the scary things about the holdout side of it is how many times you see somebody and they miss camp. The only way to get in football shape is to play football. How many times you see a guy, we talk about soft tissue injuries. Miles Sanders is one of those guys where you talk about how his career fell apart post Philly. It's not getting turf monster and slobber knocked and facing the fan, getting your bell rung. It's soft tissue stuff. And these guys have to be taking care of that now. The Diggs can't be on a boat like his brother, and I don't even want to see him getting jumpers up on a basketball court with another TikToker. Like, I'm over it. Like, get out, get your stretching in, get your lifting in, get your hydration in. I want a picture of Dak Prescott shirtless throwing money balls for all these guys.
Well, great stuff, New Bear. Can't wait for training camp in Oxnard. Can't wait for week 1 and to continue on this football journey. Please like the video if you made it this far. We're going to be going crazy in Oxnard and throughout the NFL season with content for you. You can get our socials. You can get our written words and quick access to our library at howboutwow.com.